Woo! Justin Baldoni's lawyers just clapped back against Blake Lively's lies in the most respectful yet spiciest filings I've read yet.
The social pressures were there, but I never felt like I belonged, which is something that I still struggle with. And I think has become one of the greatest blessings in disguise. Like I felt like an outsider. Like I would walk into a party and I would want to fit in.
In a case already brimming with sharp words and sharper legal tactics, Blake Lively's latest courtroom battle has taken an unexpected turn. What began as a dispute over workplace harassment allegations has morphed into an all-out war over sealed deposition transcripts. Lively's team claims the opposing side is waging a smear campaign, while her legal rivals insist they're simply defending themselves from false and damaging claims. The controversy ignited when Wayfair's attorneys attached the full transcript of Lively's deposition to their court filing, a move her camp quickly condemned as an attempt to weaponize her own words against her.
Into this case that Lively has posted. Just because she makes allegations and files stuff or makes an article in the New York Times doesn't mean it's true. That's what the trial's for. And while this goes on, both parties, Blake and Justin's sides, can, say what they want to defend themselves.
To the public, it looked like a clash between celebrity privacy and legal transparency. But behind the scenes, this was about far more than a stack of court documents. The transcript, still under a protective order, became the flashpoint for a debate over who gets to shape the story in the press. And as both sides rushed to spin the narrative, the courtroom fight began spilling over into headlines, feeding an increasingly volatile public conversation.
This is a fantastic response. It really does go in very respectfully but spicily, calling out the lies, the false narrative spinning that Blake Lively is doing here.
I am also just like everybody else in the sense that I take on more than I can chew. I overcommit. I say yes to things out of fear. I people please.
Wayfair's legal team wasted no time firing back, framing Lively's accusations as a calculated attempt to control the narrative. In their filings, they argued that counterclaims, like those Wayfair had filed against her, are perfectly legal responses, not retaliation. They cited federal law and court precedent to back up their position, stressing that responding to public allegations isn't harassment, it's self-defense. Their message to the judge was blunt. Lively can't make explosive claims in the media and then cry foul when the other side answers publicly.
I think I'm like her in the sense that we don't indulge in the gossip. We don't listen to what people say about us. You just have to turn a blind eye to it. People are gonna talk, and you can't be hurt by that. You can't listen to that. And she's really striving. These days, I live my whole life. It's easier to fall into that, like talking about someone else and when you stick up for someone, you're going out on a limb when a whole group is making fun of someone. But I really tried to have some honor in my life.
By attaching her full deposition transcript, Wayfair's lawyers signaled they had nothing to hide and were willing to let her own sworn words speak for themselves. This wasn't just a legal maneuver, it was a statement. If Lively wanted to take the fight to the public arena, they seemed ready to meet her there. But the question lingered. Was this a smart strategic move or a risky escalation that could further inflame the high-profile case? Either way, it ensured the battle lines were no longer confined to the courtroom.
This then prompted a bunch of PR, seemingly from Blake's side. Oh, look, he's shaming us. He's putting this out there. How dare they? This is this is about a media campaign. Meanwhile, it's Blake who's clearly speaking to the media and painting this as a victim of Justin's actions, which this is all just legal actions that they're allowed to do. But this was the press wave that then went in People, Deadline, all over the place, of Blake slamming Justin, shaming his lawyers.
Lively's legal team responded with equal urgency, filing a motion to strike the transcript from the public docket almost as soon as it landed there. They framed the move as necessary to protect her from a coordinated smear effort, insisting there was no valid reason to make the full record public. The filing suggested that making the transcript accessible could fuel damaging press coverage and distort the truth before the trial even began. Yet, The optics of trying to suppress her own testimony were complicated.
That's why they did it.
Yeah, and then gave it to the LA Times. Is that really legal to just file a subpoena? So I could file a subpoena basically through a sham lawsuit on anyone's phone, and then take the phone and give it to the press. I mean, that sounds really shady.
In a case where she is both the plaintiff and a high-profile figure, the decision to seal the record risked creating the impression she had something to hide. Her camp countered that this was about safeguarding the integrity of the process, not concealing facts. But observers couldn't help noticing that the tug-of-war over transparency seemed to mirror the bigger fight, not just over what happened, but over who gets to decide how that story is told, in court and in the court of public opinion.
As we all grapple to understand it, when you're a kid, it's very hard to understand. It's something I teach my own kids, which is that, like, when somebody's lashing out, generally speaking, that person has been hurt as well. And it helps my kids at least make some sense of it. It's not the kind of, that's not the kind of nugget that was shared with me when I was a kid. I wish it was, but at least at this stage of the game, I can help my own kids with some of that. So
Judge Lyman, the quiet center of this increasingly loud dispute, found himself pulled directly into the drama. With motions and counter-motions flying, he set a rapid response deadline, giving both sides mere days to make their cases. The urgency underscored how volatile the situation had become, and how determined each party was to control the narrative before the next hearing.
So I asked him, is this normal behavior in Hollywood? And you would be surprised.
For legal watchers, the judge's handling of the case became almost as fascinating as the allegations themselves. Would he lean toward transparency, allowing the transcript to remain in play, or side with Lively's team and keep the details sealed? The compressed timeline hinted that he wanted a resolution before the matter spiraled further into a media circus. But the public could only speculate as both sides prepared their most persuasive arguments. Every filing now felt like a chess move, designed not only to win in court, but to score points in the arena of public perception.
Have you heard about or experienced anything like this before, that they would go after non-parties like this behind people's backs? Because I feel like that's really what they did here.
Yeah.
Going directly to social media platforms instead of actually going to the people involved.
When Wayfair's attorney Fritz delivered his response, it read like a carefully aimed legal takedown. He immediately dismantled Lively's claim that the transcript was a rough draft, pointing out that it carried no such markings and was in fact the final official version. By doing so, he undercut any suggestion that the document was incomplete or inaccurate. Fritz then argued that federal rules didn't even allow the court to strike attachments like deposition transcripts from the record, a point he reinforced by citing the judge's own past rulings. It was a strategic masterstroke, subtly reminding the court of its own precedent while painting Lively's motion as legally unfounded. Perhaps most cutting was Fritz's observation that Lively hadn't alleged the transcript contained anything improper. After all, these were her own words, spoken under oath. If she was confident in her testimony, why fight so hard to keep it sealed? The implication hung in the air like a challenge, one that would shape the next phase of this increasingly personal courtroom clash.
Nothing against, like, I love a good hysterical female song, but not like hysterical in like a charged, great, empowered way. It's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sound
It's
that's
not
like
cheesy. It's not cheesy.
And anyways, women are people of multitudes. And, I think that it was important to me that it didn't just feel like someone's interpretation of like male gaze. Like it really was, this is what we like, this is what we listen to, this is what makes us feel these vibes.
With both sides dug in, the heart of the fight became a question of motive. Lively's camp insisted the transcript filing was part of a calculated smear campaign designed to sway public opinion and paint her in the worst possible light. Wayfair's team countered that this was simply evidence needed to defend against her allegations, evidence she herself had provided. Each side accused the other of manipulating the press, creating a he said, she said narrative that blurred the line between legal strategy and PR warfare. For the public, the spectacle offered all the hallmarks of a celebrity feud: sharp legal language, strategic leaks, and a fight not just for justice, but for control of the story. Then came one of the most explosive accusations. Lively's claim that her deposition details had been leaked to the tabloids. The problem? She had no concrete evidence to back it up. Wayfair's side shot back that if such a leak happened, it could have just as easily come from her own camp, including her husband, her attorneys, or even staff present during the deposition. The suggestion was cutting, flipping the blame back toward Lively and raising the possibility that her team's media outrage was more performance than fact. Without proof, the allegation became yet another flashpoint in a battle already fueled by suspicion. Beyond the legal sparring, the fight over sealing her own testimony carried deeper implications. In celebrity lawsuits, the optics can matter as much as the rulings. If Lively pushed to keep her own sworn statements hidden, critics could frame it as a sign of weakness or fear. Her supporters argued it was about privacy and process, not hiding the truth. But in a media environment hungry for scandal, the nuance was easily lost. What the public saw was a Hollywood star fighting to control what parts of her story they could hear. And that perception could prove just as damaging as any courtroom defeat. By this point, the legal battle had fully merged with a media war. Headlines painted competing narratives, each crafted to protect reputations and sway opinion before the trial even began. Lively's name trended alongside words like smear and leak, while Wayfair's filings circulated as proof they were pushing for transparency. In the court of public opinion, the fight was no longer about the fine points of civil procedure. It was about who could tell the most convincing story. And in an era where viral narratives can outpace the truth, that's a dangerous game to play. As the next hearing loomed, both camps prepared for their next strategic strike. Would the judge side with transparency and let the transcript remain, or would Lively succeed in sealing it for good? Could new filings reveal more about the alleged leaks or spark fresh accusations? One thing was certain, the legal fight was far from over, and the PR war showed no signs of slowing. For now, the public waits, watching as each side crafts its next move in a battle where the verdict may be decided as much in the headlines as in the courtroom.